Hi, today we're going to be talking about one of the most important aspects of any real estate transaction, and that's the closing. Many people are always concerned about the logistics, what's involved as you get close to closing. There are a lot of moving parts to any real estate transaction. Today we're going to talk about all those different steps and help simplify it for you and make that actual closing day when you're signing on the dotted line a lot less stressful. I'm Christian Fautz with the Fautz Group at MVP Realty. So today we're going to be talking about the day when you sign on the dotted line and you officially own your new property. A lot of people get tons of anxiety leading up to the closing date. There are a lot of different things that need to be done in order for you to close on your property. So today we're going to talk about what's involved in Florida, because every state is different about how the transaction of closing on the property gets done. In Florida, unlike other states, you do not need an attorney to do the closing documents. Here in Florida, we have local licensed title companies that handle all of that for you. The second big question that we always get is, do I have to be there for the closing? A lot of people that are buying Florida here in Southwest Florida are not physically here on closing day, whether they're the buyer or the seller. The good news is you do not have to be here for the closing. Majority of the closings that we do, one or both parties are not physically here during the actual closing day. So remote closings are quite common in Florida. There are a few different ways that remote closings get done. Normally, in the past, they were done where some of the documents were sent to you for electronic signature, and some of the documents needed to be printed out and signed locally in front of a notary. So you went to your local bank or maybe an attorney that you work with, and they notarized the documents for you, and then you FedEx them to the local title company here in Florida. Same thing goes if you're a seller. The difference is what needs to get notarized. As a buyer, it's generally the mortgage documents that you need to get notarized. If you're the seller, it's the transfer deed and the related paperwork to actually transfer the property to the new buyer. Those are the difference between buyer and seller as far as what type of documents you need to get notarized. Now, with the popularization of Zoom, post-COVID, what is actually happening is we're doing live closings remotely via Zoom calls. So we have a mobile notary who's actually on the Zoom call. You send in your driver's license, you scan and email it to the title company before the closing along with other documents, and then the notary is actually live on the Zoom call verifying your identity and actually notarizing documents remotely for you. So if anything, the closing process has gotten much easier with technology. In our busy lives, with all the different things that we've got going on and then having a closing intertwined in our day-to-day lives, the title companies actually make it really dummy-proof to make sure that all the documents are in order. So two documents that they have. One is a buyer's needs and a seller's needs. So first, the buyer's needs is a form, all the information, how you want your name on the title to the property. You give them all the information, who your lender is, who your loan officer is. So all of that information, your social security, your current home address, your mailing address after the closing, where you want your real estate tax form to go to, or your real estate tax notice to go to. All of that information is on there. So buyer, you're taken care of with that form. The second form is the seller's intake form. Once again, pretty much generally the same information, right? Who owns the property? Who has to sign to sell the property? Do you have a mortgage on the property? If so, who's the mortgage lender? They need to submit a request to find out what the payoff would be so that the loan could be paid at closing from the proceeds. So you'll provide all that information and the title company will let you know if anything is missing. Then once the title company has all the information they need to prepare for the closing day, you will receive the most important document for closing, which is referred to as a HUD or an atlas statement. This will be sent to you with probably 5 to 7 days before closing, which will itemize everything about the real estate purchase or sale. On it, it will have the purchase price. It will have any deposits that you've made that are being applied to the final purchase price. It'll have the real estate taxes, and they'll be prorated. So whatever day and month you're closing on, the seller will be responsible up to that date, and then after closing will be responsibility of the buyer. If there's a homeowners association, the property you're buying is located within one, those monthly dues will be prorated as well if you're not closing on the first day of the month. It will also contain the financing, what the buyer is borrowing and what the seller may owe on their outstanding mortgage. So all of that information will be listed on this HUD or this atlas statement. Then the second page of the HUD statement will outline all of the closing costs that are involved. And in the state of Florida, it's unique because by county, sellers pay certain closing costs and buyers pay certain costs. In the county that I predominantly work in, Lee County, and throughout the state of Florida, the seller always pays the documentary stamps, which is the transfer tax on the real property. And in Lee County, the standard rate is 0.007 or 70 cents per $100 of the purchase price, okay? The second cost that's involved is what's called the policy owner charges. When you're buying property, you want to make sure that you're getting free and marketable title, free of all liens and encumbrances. So you purchase what's called a title policy, which protects you as the buyer. And in Lee County, the seller traditionally pays that. In a lot of other counties, and I would say majority of the counties throughout the state of Florida, the buyer pays that because it's for the buyer's interest to have the title insurance, not so much for the seller. There are two different types of title policies. One is what's called the lender's policy, which is generally issued only for the lender to protect them. So if you're buying your property and you're getting a mortgage, the lender will require a lender's policy be issued. The other policy is for the owner, the buyer, which is issued to protect them. So those are the two major costs that you have when closing. And the additional cost that you will incur, or you'll see on the atlas statement, is the title search, where the title company is doing the search. Remember, we spoke about earlier how the owner's policy is to protect you against lien encumbrances. So they search, they do a background check to make sure that the title is clean and that there's no cloud on the title, is what they refer to it as. The second cost that you'll have is what's called the settlement fee. That ranges between $300 to $450 depending on the title company. You also will have what's called the storage or courier fees, where they actually will electronically store your file. Those run between $25 to $50. You may also have FedEx fees if you're not going to be here, overnight fees for them to overnight packages to you. So the final expenses that we're going to cover now are the recording fees. The first recording fee is for the recording of the actual deed in the county clerk's office. That's generally paid by the buyer. The second recording fee is if you have a mortgage, that has to be filed in the county clerk's office as well. That's paid by the buyer. And then the last recording fee that we have is what's called an intangible tax based on the property. All right, so to recap today, what's involved in closing? One, in the state of Florida, you do not need an attorney. Your local title company can close for you. Two, do you need to be in Florida for your closing? Absolutely not. Majority of the people who are buying and selling real estate here are not here for the closing. Technology has really freed us up to do things remotely. The third thing is, we talked about the most important statement you're going to receive 3 to 5 days before closing is your HUD or your atlas statement, which will itemize every detail of the transaction, from the purchase price to the mortgage that you're getting to the title, search costs, recording fees. All of those will all be itemized, and you'll review those with your local real estate agent that you're working with. Well, I know we covered a lot today in this video. I hope you found it educational, and if we can help you with any of your real estate needs here in Southwest Florida, please feel free to reach out to us, and stay tuned for the next video.